Alrighty, welcome back everyone. In today's video we're going to be wrapping up the sprint series. This is a series over the last month or so targeted at improving sprint power, specifically our 1 second, 5 second, and 15-second powers. And we did a sprint test or a sprint assessment about a month ago, and we're wrapping it up today with the retesting with the exact same workout to see how much we've improved. So, over the course of the last few weeks, you've been seeing we've been doing a lot of workouts and races targeted at improving this sprint power. Overall, I'd say for the workouts, they went really well. Like we had a number of sessions kind of attacking the components of the sprint, as we've talked about several times. As we know, force and speed equals power, so we did sessions where we were doing very high torque, kind of separating that component or piece out, and then we did high leg speed, separating that piece out, and then we kind of put the two together and worked some of the technical components when we were doing some lead out sprints and stuff like that. And overall, for those workouts, I'd say they went pretty well. However, I'll say that nearing the end of the phase, I started kind of thinking, did I really say at the beginning here that I was going to be cranking out a 5-second power of 900 watts? Because even though in the workouts themselves I wasn't doing just repeated max sprints, that's not how I was going to improve sprint power. As I said, I was looking at more components. I did do some max sprints at the ends of workouts, and even after a few races I did just like a max one-off sprint or something like that. And in those sprints I was never really hitting numbers anywhere close that would indicate that I was going to do a 5-second power of 900. Because if you're doing a 5-second power of 900 watts, you're going to obviously have to have a 1-second power of much higher than that as it tapers off, and then you can hold that. So you're going to have a sustained amount of time over 900 watts to hit that kind of a average power. If we look at just 5-second powers or so, I did have one that I hit 870 right after the sprint assessment. But most of them, like 5-second peaks, were like 850, 852. I think overall peaks were not that much higher than that. I think I hit 895 on the 870 sprint, the 875-second sprint there. But anyways, there were no real things saying like, yes, absolutely, we're going to hit this number. However, during the Zwift races where I had picked races that I had planned on or hoped that were going to end in sprint finishes, just based on the course and stuff like that, I was seeing good improvement throughout those races, feeling not only just more comfortable with my sprint, but objectively I was seeing improvements in my 15-second power week on week. So for example, in the initial sprint assessment, I was like 752 watts, and then the first race I was 761, the second was 762, the third wasn't as high, and I mean, this is why it is kind of difficult sometimes looking at races to get data. There are so many little things that make every single race different. For example, how hard was the lead out before the sprint? Was there a little effort before the sprint? So it is a little hard to compare with that. But anyways, in the fourth race and final race, I did end up hitting 772 watts, which I think was very close to, if not a peak all-time 15-second power, just under 13 watts per kilogram. So I was seeing good improvement in the 15-second power. The 5-second and peak powers were the part where I was really kind of unsure of what was going to happen here. The 15-second, I was confident based on those races that I could beat that number. So with that, time to test the sprint power and see what we can do. I mean, the good thing about testing sprint power is, I mean, it's good and bad. The good thing is that it's not really that painful. Like if you're doing a 5-minute test or a 20-minute test or something like that, you know it's going to absolutely hurt. With a 10-second sprint test, it's going to be done before you know it. But the bad part about that, and kind of what makes you still kind of get those butterflies a little bit, is it's so kind of hit or miss, the sprints. You get a good gear and you get a good sprint kind of thing. If you're too small of a gear, it's not a good sprint. So it really is like you got so short of amount of time to test or to prove yourself. And so it's not long enough that, you know, you can make up for something. Like with a 5-minute test or something, you know, so what? You have a bad first 20 seconds. It's okay. You know, you got time. You got 4 minutes and 40 seconds to make up for it. But with it being so short, can't really do much thinking about it. Just gotta smash those pedals, and let's see what happens.
What if I go stronger? What if I get higher? What if I start doing things I know I will regret? I will make my own way, I will not surrender. I will do my best until I get put under. What if I go stronger? 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 What if I go stronger?
Folks, I couldn't have gone any better. I'm amazed. Practically burst the veins in my neck from getting so excited. Oh my God. Anyways, like, it's unbelievable. Like, I don't know. Anyways, that's all for now, and we'll catch you in a little bit. I actually can't breathe right now. I feel like I've got a heart attack. Anyways, we'll catch you in a little bit. As you can see there in the video, I was pretty pumped up. I really couldn't believe what had just happened. And I think all of this kind of goes back, it actually goes back to kind of what I mentioned just offhand in the Pain Cave tour video about the Mamba mentality. Talking, and Kobe's talked about this a lot, about just trusting the process. And like I said, in the training, we have to trust in that, okay, we're not really working, like, we're not going to improve sprint power by just doing max sprint after max sprint. We attacked it with a very systematic approach, looking at each component of the sprint and trying to improve each one of those components. Like I said, the force, the leg speed, the technical components of what gearing we're in and stuff like that. And come race day, or test day in this case, you just got to trust that you've put in the work and then just go for it. And so everything really paid off on race day, hit just absolutely massive numbers. I'll put it on the screen now. Numbers that, like, as I said, I didn't really see coming, and you can see my reaction when I see on my watch that I hit 930 as the peak power. It was unbelievable. And with this whole series, I'll say, like, it's been a ton of fun actually attacking sprint power, because it's just something that I've never really done before or committed to before. And like I said a little bit ago, none of the workouts are really that painful. They just end up being a lot of fun, just trying to just rip the pedals off kind of thing. So it was actually a lot of fun going after that. And I actually still think I can improve on that, especially when it comes to the 15-second power. Because actually, as odd as it sounds, after the 10-second test, I was actually so pumped up. I was kind of giddy is the best word to describe it. I was kind of just like, couldn't stop laughing like for 5 minutes, just because I couldn't believe the numbers. That going into the 20-second test, where I was taking the 15-second power from, I kind of lost a little bit of that kind of like aggression, or focus and aggression that I think you need in a sprint. You kind of got to get angry at the pedals and kind of just really want to rip the handlebars off as you're sprinting. And I kind of, like, before I knew it, you know, we were counting down to the sprint, and it was like, oh, okay, we've got to get all like kind of psyched up again. And so I think I could actually do better on that 20-second test. And I can't wait to actually show you one of the workouts coming up where I know absolutely I can do better. So overall, it was a really fun phase working the sprint power, and really I could keep working sprint power forever and ever, but it's time to move into the next phase now, which is working anaerobic capacity. What are we talking about here with anaerobic power or anaerobic capacity? You're going to see it referred to a lot of different ways. You're going to see coaches talking about don't burn too many matches, stuff like this. With anaerobic capacity, what we're talking about are those 20, 30 second into 2 minute all-out maximal efforts, extremely painful efforts, those efforts that you need to break a group on a short climb or shake somebody off your wheel, race-winning moves. These types of efforts. And sometimes you'll see anaerobic capacity in more kind of recent literature referred to as W prime. So with this next block, I've broke it up into 2 phases, each a 3-week block with a recovery week in between. And each one is kind of attacking a different component of that anaerobic power. And the way I kind of like to think about it is kind of like a battery. And it actually kind of is like a battery because what we're talking about here is your high intensity energy, and that's measured in kilojoules. So actually a battery is actually a pretty good analogy for it. And so the 2 kind of things that I'm going to be working on is in the first phase, what I'm going to be trying to do is I'm going to try to increase the actual size of the battery. If you want to think about it like a matchbox, basically I want to increase the size of each match. I want to increase the burn power in each match. That's phase 1. Phase 2 of building that anaerobic power or anaerobic capacity is increasing how quickly that battery recharges so that basically I can attack more frequently. And I think both of these components are equally important. One, it's important that every attack, every match, or the size of the battery is as big as it can possibly be, because if you said to someone, oh, I'm able to repeat attack after attack, but each attack is only 5 or 6 watts per kilogram, something like that, well, that attack's never really going to do anything to begin with. You need your actual attack, you need that match to be as big as possible so that it actually has an effect. So 1, we got to increase the size of that battery. And then 2, the second component, the repeatability component, is in reality, it's never going to be just one attack. There's always going to be, one attack to maybe break the group or reduce the size of the group, but you're probably going to have to do another attack to win the race, something like that. If we're talking about crit racing, there's obviously going to be turn after turn after turn, so you're going to have to be able to repeat these surges over and over and over. So I think both components, kind of that burn power and the number of matches in your matchbox, are both equally important. And so these are the 2 phases that we're going to be working. So the first phase, because I think this is how the best way to do it, is to make the attack as big as possible first, and then we'll worry about increasing the repeatability or improving the repeatability of that attack. With this, the best way to do this is doing short intervals on absolutely full recovery. And you'll see in some of the coming workouts in future videos that you're going to see recovery periods that you're like, holy moly, that's a long time to recover. But the thing is that if you actually look at the research, and I'll link in the description a study that I was reading before, last year actually, but if you look in the research, when subjects did maximal efforts, so these max 30 second into 2 minute long, more 30 second into 90 second long efforts, it took on average about 6.5 minutes at 20 watts. I don't care what your FTP is, 20 watts is insanely low. So it took basically 6.5 minutes of no pedaling. So you can imagine that if instead of 20 watts, your recovery is at 190 watts or 200 watts or something like that, it's going to take a heck of a lot longer, a very long time. And actually there'll be some scenarios where if your recovery period is a high enough intensity, then W prime will actually never recover. So the best way to increase that size of the battery, like I said, is having very long periods of recovery. If you want to make it a truly maximal effort, and that's the only way you're improving that system, if you want to make them truly maximal efforts, then you can't start the next interval fatigued from the previous. You need to make sure that that next interval is also a maximal effort. So you need to let that battery recharge all the way and then hit it again. And so the first phase, you're going to see 20, 30, and 40 second long intervals with maximum recovery in between, so that hopefully we can get an even effort across all the intervals, so that every interval is truly a maximal effort, and then we'll increase that size of the battery or the burn power, however you want to think about it. So that's the next phase coming up, is working that. And then, like I said, then we'll get into working kind of the repeatability of this, which I'll talk in a future video about how we're going to improve how we're going to improve how quickly that battery recharges so that we can do attack after attack after attack. So we'll talk about that in a future video. But how we're going to be assessing all of this, or whether I've improved or not. First, we're going to do a 1-minute power test, since that's a great way to assess your anaerobic power. And for that, I'll show you that right now.
Sind all die anderen erst am Aufstehen. Und wenn uns irgendein Problem verfolgt, dann setz ich den Winkel zum geben Vollgas. Schau dir in deine Augen und hol stolz, ja, mit dir an meiner Seite macht das Leben voll Spaß. Nur du und ich suche dich.
Like the sprint power, I did not see that coming, because I beat my personal best by 10 watts, which was done in the Zwift Academy. And at the time when I did that, back in October, November of last year, I was in absolute peak shape, and that was already a massive personal best by about 20 watts. So I did not see myself beating that by another 10 watts. So it was a really great place to start. It's also pretty crazy thinking, oh my god, I have to go even better than that the next time in about a month, and then again in 2 months. I say that, but I am confident that I could beat that number, because actually, like, the 55 second power was actually like 6:30, and I started the interval like 2 seconds late or something for some odd reason. I don't know what I was doing, probably getting my music ready to go. So I am confident that I could beat that number. Kind of my dream for it is I would love to be able to get my 1 minute power to 11 watts per kilogram, so that's 660 watts. I think that's asking an awful lot, but with the sprint power I was asking for an awful lot as well, and I hit my goal there, so I have no doubt that I'm going to hit it again. And so with that being said, it's time to start the training. If you're interested in following along, make sure to subscribe. And I think it's going to be really exciting. Like I said, the sprint power, for me at least, was really exciting to work, since it was very new to me. And I think this is also going to be really exciting. And also, I should mention that in addition to these workouts that are coming up, just like last time, there will be a Zwift race every Friday evening. And even though the sprint races I thought were pretty exciting to watch, I'm going to tell you right now, without giving away to my competitors what's going to happen, I'm going to tell you right now they're going to be pretty exciting races, because as I said, we are working 1 minute power. So keep that in mind. We're not going to wait until the final 200 meters to go. You might see some things happening with 1 kilometer to go or 900 meters to go, and just seeing if we can make it. So I think it's going to be pretty exciting. I hope you enjoy what we have coming on the channel. Got a bunch of videos actually coming this week, but I'm going to end this one here. And as usual, thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoy, and I'll catch you next time.